Hi everyone, this episode is brought to you by Lag Studio and I'm Elson. In this episode, I'm going to go through the hack that happened on Solana earlier today, how the hacker was able to exploit Wormhole, and what we ought to expect for the future. As I got off my noon meeting, I noticed an alert from Masari. I'm a Masari Enterprise user, so they send out alerts when there's important things happening around in the blockchain space. Sometimes it's an update, but in this particular case, it was an exploit. It stated that the Wormhole team has found the network was hacked for 120 wrapped ETH, initially reported as 80,000. The Wormhole team added ETH will be added over the next hours to ensure wrapped ETH is backed one-to-one. More details coming short. So for beginners, there's a few questions that you might ask. One, what is Wormhole? Second, what is this wEth that you're talking about? I know about the Ethereum, but not wEth. And lastly, why does wEth needs to be back one-to-one with Ethereum? Wormhole, their website, let's go to their documentation. They have two main features. One is the token bridge and an NFT bridge. There's so many blockchains out there that you might store your assets on or you might use the apps on. And in those blockchains, you have tokens and NFTs. If you wanted to transfer from one blockchain to the other, you would use a wormhole, a token bridge for a token, and an NFT bridge for an NFT. The one that was exploited in this scenario was a token bridge between Solana and Ethereum. So a high-level explanation of what happens when you use a token bridge to transport assets. For example, you were trying to transfer Ethereum into the Solana ecosystem. The Ethereum token is not actually transferred over, but it is actually locked in an Ethereum smart contract inside Ethereum's ecosystem. On the Solana side, based on how many Ethereum you lock or deposit into the Ethereum smart contract, they mint a duplicate called wrapped ETH in the Solana ecosystem. So that's the wrapped ETH or wEth that was mentioned in the email before. Each one of these wrapped ETH represents one token locked in the Ethereum ecosystem. So a TLDR for what happened is that the hackers out of nowhere minted 120 wrapped ETH without actually depositing the same amount in the Ethereum ecosystem. And then they used this wrapped ETH to backtrack and take out 80,000 Ethereum in the Ethereum part and use the remaining 40,000 to purchase other tokens. The one-to-one ratio between wrapped ETH and Ethereum is really important because if one Ethereum not equals to one wrapped ETH, the wrapped ETH would then just be a worthless duplicate sitting in the Solana network. A lot of Solana's GameFi and DeFi protocols use the wrapped ETH as collateral and would have a tremendous effect on all the apps or protocols built on the Solana ecosystem. Solana's Twitter wasn't as active, but Wormhole's Twitter did keep track of what happened quite frequently and updated the audience. They found out about the problem, addressed the problem, they took down the Wormhole network for maintenance as they looked into the potential exploit, and then after around 3 to 4 hours, the vulnerability was patched and they were working on getting the network back as soon as possible. On the side note, they also reached out to the hacker based on their address saying that we've noticed you were able to exploit the Solana VAA verification and mint tokens. We'd like to offer you a white hat agreement and present you a bug bounty of $10 million for the exploit details. Of course, they also wanted them to return the wrapped ETH that they minted. So just one is the team behind Solana's Wormhole. Solana's price actually dropped around 9% in the last 24 hours. The prices of crypto have been tanking recently, so this event could not have happened at a worse time. The White House also announced that it wanted to release guidelines and regulations on cryptocurrencies and stablecoins. So what actually happened behind the scenes and what did the hacker do to play the system? Back when I was in school, I remembered I had to leave early one day after lunch for a family event. My mom gave me a note with her signature on it and told me to give it to the teacher. As I got to school, I gave it to the teacher. The teacher looked at the note and then asked me for my mom's phone number. She called my mom to make sure that everything checked out. I was saying the truth. I didn't forge the note, and she let me go right after lunch. Now, there is a flaw in this process. If the phone number I gave to my teacher was a friend of mine who pretended to be my mom, I could potentially forge a note and get out of school without actually having a family event. A similar bug happened in the process of the wormhole protocol. Similar to our analogy, there's a guardian role that signs off and checks if everything is abide by the rules. Right before the hacker hacked the system, the hacker actually did deposit zero point 0.1 Ethereum into the Ethereum smart contract, interacted with the wormhole, initiated the validation process, passed, and received zero point 0.1 wrapped ETH. However, in the bottom graph, you can see that the hacker did not actually deposit 120k Ethereum, but still interacted with the wormhole, initiated the validation process. Instead of calling the system, it called a random address, and the validation process passed because of a bug. As a result, 120k wrapped Ethereum was minted out of nowhere. Of course, once they received that 120k wrapped Ethereum, everything was already valid on the Solana side, so they didn't have to game the system again to transfer out 80k of that back to the Ethereum ecosystem. It's also worth noting that the validation process is actually just a function and a piece of code in the smart contract of the Wormhole protocol. This code can be seen on GitHub by anyone, so the transparency is there. However, just a few hours before the hack, there was an update to this exact function, and possibly the hacker saw this update, found the flaw, and used it to their own advantage. Now, bugs are not uncommon when it comes to coding, as long as you fix it in a timely manner. But when this bug costs you $320 million, we might need to rethink the process of deploying code and updating protocols. On top of that, you might also need to really examine the security of all these centralized bridges that allow cross-chain functions to be executed. This article on Cointelegraph points out that this is the second smart contract exploit in Token Bridge. On January 28th, Qubit's Qbridge was exploited for 80 million. Last August, Poly Network was exploited 10 million. In that case, most of the funds were returned by the hacker. And at the bottom part, you can see that Vitalik actually does warn on January 7th that there are fundamental security limits of these bridges. So this is definitely something that you have to be careful about when you are interacting with cross-chain functions through a centralized bridge. As of now, the vulnerability has been patched. The Wormhole team will add ETH over the next few hours to make sure that the wrapped ETH is backed one-to-one. I'm guessing that this money will come from their own pockets or their venture capital partners that they work with to ensure that this protocol still has value and all of the dApps that does use this protocol and use the wrapped ETH is not worthless. We are still in very early stages of Web3. Decentralized is a big thing when it comes to security. However, Solana, with one of its VCs being very vocal about speed over security, is something that we have to watch out for. I do think that these type of attacks or exploits will help the overall community to gain experience and develop better solutions with better security. But it does suck to see things like this happen. We hope that the Wormhole team can bounce back and patch up the system and get it back online as soon as possible. As always, subscribe, follow if you have any questions, or if you want me to cover any material, please leave a comment or message me through Twitter. Thank you.